If you're freelancing with AI and you're not making money, then you're probably doing one of these things wrong. I've made over $100,000 on Upwork and I've done over 50 projects, and I've scaled my hourly rate from $0, literally rock bottom, to over $100 an hour. So I know a lot of things about how to succeed in the freelancing space, but I made a ton of mistakes at the start. There's honestly things that I've even learned in just the last 3 or 6 months alone that will save you a lot of headaches, a lot of stress, and it's going to let you scale a hell of a lot quicker. First off, I'm going to talk through some of the common freelance failure patterns that I see not only in new freelancers, but also freelancers that have kind of plateaued at a single hourly rate, or they're earning the same amount of money week on week and struggling to find out how they can actually grow that. Now, one of the areas that I think that this can be really damaging is fixed price projects if you don't know how to sell it correctly. Now, one of the dangers, and you will learn this the hard way, is that every client has different expectations, and scope creep, especially in the land of AI and tech, is very common, and it takes extreme expertise and honestly, I think a fair bit of luck to actually scope fixed price projects out correctly. Now, the way most people do this is they actually factor in a 30 to 40 to 50% risk factor into that fixed price. So you'd estimate a total amount of time it takes to complete a project, and then you would add the risk factor on top of that, because clients, at the end of the day, you are really dependent on getting a good review out of the client. So often you have to go a little bit above and beyond, and that can really creep into your profit margins or your profits in general because you're a freelancer. So you have to be really careful of fixed price projects, and you have to be able to scope them out correctly, which requires some technical expertise. Now, if you don't like that idea, I would always recommend using a more hourly based contract approach. So that is one danger zone. Now, I honestly think that especially as you're starting out, you have to do some fixed price projects because they're sometimes a little bit easier to win because the client feels less at risk paying a fixed price because they know exactly how much they're going to be spending. Once you have a little bit more experience and a little bit more value and leverage, you can start to explain to clients that if you're pretty good at a particular thing, that you need a 10-hour a week or 20-hour week retainer. And because of the difficulty in scoping this AI solution and how agile tech development is and how quickly AI is changing, it's really difficult to scope out a project. But if I can prove to you what I can deliver in 10 hours and you're happy with that, you get an understanding of how I work, how much I can deliver in a set period of time, and then you kind of negotiate a retainer model, which I honestly think is life-changing. Now, the next one is not knowing how to sell. Now, the weird thing about your hourly rate is it's actually perceived value and not real value. And what I mean by that is that when you get on a meeting with a client, the whole thing is trying to convince them that you're worth how much you say you're worth. Now, you could actually be absolutely horrible at what you do, but if you have a really, really solid social proof, if you talk really, really well, now it can be difficult to fake this if you don't know what you're doing, but if you can answer really domain, like by domain expertise, I mean the area that you're talking about, but in the AI space, if you can answer complex problems and display examples of solutions that you've had, that's what defines your value. So if you're really, really good at what you do, but you're bad at showcasing it and you're bad at explaining it, you're going to struggle to sell yourself at a high hourly rate because clients aren't that confident that you know what you're doing. The vice versa also applies. If you're not that good at what you're doing, but you're really good at selling yourself, you've organized a lot of social proof, so you've organized a lot of reviews, your profile has a lot of reviews on it, or maybe a landing page, you've got a bunch of videos and you can showcase examples of projects to clients, you might be able to negotiate a pretty high hourly rate. So it's really important to understand that value is actually perceived, it's not real. It's how well that you can explain to somebody that you know what you're doing. Now, one of the other ones is undervalued projects, and this one's pretty self-explanatory, but especially if you're doing new projects or you're a new freelancer and you're not 100% sure exactly what's going to be required to complete a project, you may make the mistake of thinking that it's a lot easier than it actually is. Now, if you're starting out, that's not a bad thing because whilst you may not make that much money, you will learn some new skills and you'll learn how to do something new. And I think that actually, when you're starting out, that is almost equally as valuable to money because on a small scale, you can learn something new. So next time you go to develop a project, you have this new skill that you can sell. But if you're a bigger freelancer, you obviously want to be aware of this issue. And honestly, it's one that kind of teaches itself to you because you'll make this mistake as a freelancer, but you do just want to be careful that you're not undervaluing projects. And as your hourly rate grows and as your experience grows, ensures that you're reflecting that in your project prices and you're not undervaluing it. The last one, and I actually think this is a really important one that nobody really talks about, is overcomplicating MVPs. Now, if you're not sure what an MVP is, some people could call it a proof of concept as well, or a POC. Essentially, it stands for the minimum viable product. And in AI development, it would be the absolute core product or service or chat or whatever you want to call it, the core project that's required to solve the client's problem. So if they want a chatbot, for example, that searches their knowledge base, the MVP is just a working chatbot that maybe does their initial 10, 20 documents or something like that. Then the next stage on top of that could be to add an extra 50 documents. And the next stage on top of that could be to integrate that into their Slack channel or something like that. But what's really important is instead of trying to tackle 10 complex problems at once, you want to break it down into a proof of concept. And there's multiple benefits for this. One, you can deliver it much quicker. Two, it's actually cheaper for the client because they're paying for less things. And three, it reduces the risk of scope creep because the scope is smaller. And it gives you a chance to really quickly display what you can do. So what I usually recommend is pressuring the client into reducing their scope if they're open to considering it, and they usually are because you're the expert and that's why they're coming to you, to basically reduce some of the requirements in the project, deliver a more core product, and that's going to allow you to basically reduce the risk of complexity getting out of hand and you getting stuck in the wasteland of never being able to actually deliver something. Now, those are some of the common failures. Some of the common successes, or the things that I think work really well, are one, I've actually found this personally, and I've only discovered this in the last 3 or 6 months, is sprint-based pricing. Now, I truly believe that in the tech space, fixed-based pricing doesn't actually work. And I've done a lot of fixed-based pricing in my time, and it can work if you significantly overquote. But I honestly think, and it really depends on your business model. I mean, I can definitely see a use case where fixed-price pricing could work, but we switched to sprint-based pricing, and that has been a hell of a lot easier. Client expectations have been way better. We move a lot quicker. We're so much more agile when we're developing AI solutions for clients. And in my personal opinion, I would highly recommend people to look into sprint-based pricing, explore how that works, and possibly move over from fixed-based pricing, because I know a lot of, especially freelancers and agencies, have serious frustration with fixed-based pricing. And for me, the movement to sprint-based pricing has been a no-brainer. It is way, 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 way better. We're making more money. We're delivering things way quicker. I could not recommend it highly enough. Now, the other things are constantly developing your social proof. Now, again, what I talked about before, value is always perceived, and the way people charge for high ticket services is basically through perceived value, building lots of social proof, building a really solid landing page, building videos of client testimonials, because videos are such a powerful way to explain how you communicate, but also showcase your service. And through doing things like building a YouTube channel and demonstrating your skills. And I'm going to shamelessly plug the AI Builders Hub community right now because it's probably a good time. But that's a spot where I showcase my skills in not only freelancing and how to develop and sell yourself, but also how to actually get the technical skills to not only be able to deliver projects in the AI space, which is booming, but also how to accurately quote projects and understand what you're doing, and basically either take control of your own freelance career or even maybe develop an agency one day. Now, the other real success pattern, and honestly, this is for really developed freelancers or agencies, is what they call the productized service. Now, when you start out, it's the same kind of concept as beggars can't be choosers. When you're really starting out, you kind of have to take whatever projects come your way because you're in the early stage of your freelancing career and you don't really have the experience or the social proof or the developed presence to be able to turn clients away, because you need the money, you need the projects. One thing you'll notice is the problem with that is that you end up taking on all different kinds of projects and you solve lots of different complex problems for each of these projects. So you might build AI solutions for a client in the real estate space, for example, but then when you go to build an AI solution for a client in the construction space, it's completely different. And what I'm talking about here is one issue that really plagues people that are trying to scale a really an agency or a freelancing model. And what I'm talking about here is the development of a productized service. So what a productized service means is that you pick one particular pain point or a service and you get really, really good at developing that service. So that could be, for example, building AI chatbots or AI support bots for people in the real estate industry. You get really, really good at doing that. And so what you do is you almost build a templated approach or a product to solve that particular problem. And what you've developed is what they call the productized service. And this model means that instead of having to solve really complex problems every time a new client comes to the door, you have a templated approach to solving one particular problem. So as long as you know how to target that particular person that has the problem, you can then obviously deliver a lot more of these projects quicker, but you're still charging the same amount of value. So that's something that I've seen is what takes people from the 10K a month or from a plateau to the next level of freelancing or running an agency. Hopefully that helps you navigate your path wherever you are on the freelancer journey. And if you're stuck, what I'd really recommend is finding a community or even mentors that have been in your space. Because one of the things that took me forever is I took 4 years to make $100,000 on Upwork. And I did it really with no community and no mentor. And not only for the technical skills, but also for the soft skills, I had to learn a lot of those lessons, often really expensive lessons, by myself. Things that honestly, if I'd had the right support network and I could have talked to someone, I probably could have solved and saved myself the headache a hell of a lot quicker. And I've literally helped some of the people in my community do exactly that. So if you want access to something like that, feel free to join the AI Builders Hub, but also just feel free to get involved, take a look at some of the other YouTube content I had that might help you set up your Upwork profile and things like that. And I honestly wish you all the best. And I hope this video is helpful in saving you from some of the headaches that happen with freelancing so you can avoid the pitfalls and really scale your freelancing career. Good luck.